everyone! My name's Nikita and I'm one of the STEM instructors at Creative Encounters with Science, and today I'm going to be taking you through our Doctor for the Day Camp in a Box. You're going to get to learn all about the nervous system, respiratory system, and skeletal system. So let's get started. First, we have our nervous system. Our nervous system helps us control all of our daily activities. It helps control things that happen automatically, such as our breathing rate and our heart rate. And it also helps control things that we have to think about in order to do, such as moving our muscles. A key part of our nervous system is our brain. Our brain helps us control the way we think and feel and how we talk and move. Our brain is divided into different parts. The first part is our frontal lobe that's found in the front of our brain. It helps us control our reasoning, motor control, emotion, and language. The next part is called the motor cortex. It's part of the frontal lobe that specifically controls our movements. Next, we have the parietal lobe, which is found behind our frontal lobe. This helps us understand all the information that comes from our body's senses. Next, we have the sensory cortex, which is a part of our parietal lobe that is specifically responsible for helping us feel touch, pain, and temperature. Then we have our temporal lobe, which is found at the side of our brain. This helps control our hearing, language, emotion, and memory. Finally, we have our occipital lobe, which is found at the back of our brain. This helps us understand all the things that we're seeing. Now we're going to get to make our very own model brain hat. To make your very own brain hat, you're going to need a couple things from your box. First, you're going to need your 2 paper brain templates. You're going to need a marker and some tape. You'll find Scotch tape in your box, but for today, I'm going to use masking tape so that it's easier for you to see. You might also want to grab some crayons or colored pencils to color with if you'd like. Our first step is going to be to take our marker and label the different parts of the brain. Pause the video when the picture comes up to help you know where the correct labels go. Now we're going to move on to the next step. We're going to turn both halves of the brain over, and we're going to fold on the lines that are already creased. We're just going to make sure to push down so that the paper is flat on our surface. So we're going to do that at every crease. And don't forget to do that on both halves of your brain template. So now we're going to move on to the next step, which is taping our brain together. We're going to start with one half, and we're going to take the side that has a fold on it, and we're going to bring it right up against the closest edge. And then we're going to take a piece of tape and place it right where they meet to secure. So one more time, that's take the edge with the fold and bring it right up against the next closest edge. So you don't need to overlap them, you just need to bring them right beside each other and use a piece of tape to secure. So we're going to do that all the way around to close all these gaps on both halves. Once we get to the end, we're going to do the exact same thing with our last flap. Take the folded edge, bring it over, and secure with a piece of tape. We're going to do the exact same thing for our second half. Once we're done taping, we should have 2 semicircle pieces of the brain. So we're going to start the next step, which is putting the 2 halves together. So in order to do this, you're going to turn your brain hat around and you're going to want to line up the lobes. So over here, we have our occipital lobe and our other occipital lobe. We want to make sure they're on the same side. On the other side here, I have my frontal lobe and the other frontal lobe lined up together. So once I have the lobes lined up, I can start taping them together. So in order to do this, I'm first going to take the edge of both halves and simply bring them together, just right next to each other, similar to how we did when putting the halves together. And I'm going to secure this with a piece of tape right where the two halves meet. I'm going to repeat the same step once again. I'm going to take the halves, I'm going to bring them together, and I'm going to place a piece of tape in the middle where they join to secure. We're going to keep doing that all the way up until our brain comes together. So once you're done, you should have a line of tape along the center line where the two halves join together. Remember to use as many pieces of tape as you need in order to hold your brain hat secure. After you're done taping, you can flip the brain over, and there you have it, your very own brain hat. Next, we're going to talk about our respiratory system. Our respiratory system helps us to breathe. In order to breathe, we need to take in oxygen from the air around us and release carbon dioxide from inside of us. We can think of our respiratory system like one long tube. First, we breathe in air through our nose and mouth, and it goes down a pipe called the trachea, and then into a part called the bronchus. After, it goes into even tinier tubes called bronchioles, and then into these really small air sacs called alveoli. At the bottom of our lungs, we have a muscle called a diaphragm, which helps separate our lungs from our stomach and liver. Take a moment now to take a deep breath in and out and see what you notice. Well, when you breathe in air, your diaphragm pulls downward and your rib cage moves up and out. This results in the space inside of your chest increasing and allows the air to be pulled inside your lungs. When you breathe out, the opposite happens. Your diaphragm moves up, your rib cage returns to normal, and the space inside your chest gets smaller. This results in the air coming out of your body. To get a better understanding of this, next we are going to make our very own model lung in a bottle. To make your model lung in a bottle, you're going to need a plastic water bottle with a balloon attached to the bottom, and you're also going to find a Ziploc bag which has 2 pieces of balloons, a paper straw, and some tiny white straws. So you're going to take all those materials out and place them down in front of you. And the first thing that you're going to do is take both of your small pieces of balloon. We're going to start by taking one of these small white straws, and we're going to put it right into the balloon. Now, you don't want to push the straw too far down, but we're going to push it down until you can feel the tip of it reach the wide part of the balloon. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of space here. So what we want to do is we want to push our straw to one end, and we want to wrap the rest of the balloon around the straw, and we want to secure this with tape. So we're going to take a piece of tape and wrap it around there, just like that. And now we're going to do the exact same thing for our other balloon. We're going to take the piece of balloon, we're going to put our straw into the balloon until the tip reaches the wide part, and we are going to repeat the same thing for taping. Once we have our 2 balloons attached to the small straws, we're going to move on to our next step, which is going to be using our paper straw. So this next step might take you a couple tries, but that's okay. So what you want to do is we want to get both of these small straws into the end of our paper straw. So the easy way to do this that I find works well is to start with one and push it in, and take your second straw and push down on the first straw and try to squeeze that second one in. Once you've pushed your straws in, you want to try and make sure that your 2 balloons are roughly at the same level, and you want to squeeze any air that's in it out. You want to also be careful to not bend your white straws as much as possible when putting them into the paper straw. And once you have your 2 balloons at the same level, you're going to take another piece of tape just to secure the white straws to our paper straw. Once we have that done, the next step that we're going to do is we are going to take the straw with the balloons attached to it and we're going to push it into the top of our bottle. Just like that. And we can use our paper straw here to help us, and we're going to do that until the balloons get about halfway into the bottle. And we're going to place it down. Now what we want to do is we want to create a seal around the cap of our bottle. So we are going to do this with the tape. So I find that the easiest way to do this is to first place a piece of tape about halfway across the opening of the bottle cap. Just like that. And stick your straw to it so that you have one part sealed. Now what we want to do is we want to close the rest of this gap. So we're going to take a couple more pieces of tape and add it on the other sides. We want to let as less air in as possible through the top of our bottle. So I like to use 4 to 5 pieces of tape, but you can use as much as you want until the top is nice and sealed. So you should have a seal around your bottle, you should have your straw at the balloons in the bottle, and the balloons should be about halfway in your plastic bottle. And now you have your model lung. The white balloon at the bottom acts as the diaphragm. Remember, that's the muscle that's at the bottom of our lungs. The paper straw is the trachea, which the air goes into. Those white straws represent our bronchus and bronchioles, and the balloons represent our lungs. So to make our model lung work, we can pull the balloon that represents the diaphragm down and see the lungs inflate. Remember, when we inhale air, our diaphragm pulls down and our lungs inflate. When we exhale, our diaphragm pushes upwards, so we're going to push that white balloon in and we're going to see the lungs deflate. So there you have it. That's how to make your very own model lung in a bottle. Finally, we're going to talk about our skeletal system. Our skeletal system helps us to move, run, play, and do all the fun activities that we like to do. It's controlled by our motor cortex, which is found in the frontal lobe of our brain. Our skeletal system consists of many bones and muscles. It also contains something called joints, which are where two bones join together. Our joints help us to be able to bend. There are many important bones throughout our body, but today we're going to focus on the bones in our hand. In our hand, we can find carpal bones, which are the bones in our wrist, metacarpal bones, which are the bones in the middle of our hand, and phalanges, which are the bones in our fingers. Now you're going to get to make your very own model robotic hand. To make your model robotic hand, the materials from your box that you're going to need are a paper hand and the Ziploc bag that has the straw pieces, some string, and a sheet of sticky squares. So first, you're going to take your materials from the Ziploc bag out and place them down beside you. Now that we have that done, we're going to work with our paper hand. So we're going to take our paper hand, and the first step that we are going to do is bend the hand on the dotted lines. So the easiest way I find to do this is to place one finger down on the dotted line and slightly bend the finger towards me. So we're going to repeat this for every dotted line on each finger until we are done all of them. Now that we have our paper hand with the fingers bent, we are going to place sticky squares on the black squares on the hand. So we're going to take our sheet and we are going to peel a square off, and we are going to place one white square on each of the black squares on the hand. Now when you're peeling these squares, Notice that these squares are double-sided, but we only want to peel one side off. So we want to have one sticky side and one not sticky side. And we're going to take the sticky side and stick it onto the black square on the hand. So once again, we're going to peel off a square from our sheet of white squares, and we're going to stick it onto a black square on the hand. We're going to repeat this until each black square on the paper hand has a white sticky square stuck to it. So once you're done, you should have all the black squares on the hand covered with a small white sticky square on each of them. So our next step, we are going to turn the hand over so that the blank side is facing us, and we are going to take our pieces of string. So you should have 5 pieces of string in your Ziploc bag. So what we're going to do now is we are going to take one end of the string, it'll be covered in masking tape, and we are going to place it at the top of a finger. So I'm going to start with the pinky here. So we're going to take the string and place the edge just like that at the top of the finger. And we're going to secure it onto the finger using our sticky squares. You can also use tape for this step if you would prefer, but I'm going to be using these squares to stick the string on. So I'm going to hold the string down on the edge of the finger, and I'm going to take a square and I'm just going to stick it on like that. I usually like to use about 3 and make sure I spread it out on the both sides so that my string stays. And now I'm going to repeat this step for my other 4 fingers. Alright, so when you're done that, you should be able to pick up the hand and move it around and not have the strings fall. Then we're going to flip our hand back over, and we are going to start working with our straws. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to take our thick piece of straw and we want to stick it onto our hand. So this thick piece of straw is going to go at the bottom of the hand near the wrist where you can see an outline. So what we're going to do is we are going to peel off the top of our squares so that now the top side is sticky. So we want to do that for all 3 squares at the bottom of the hand. And once we've done that, we're going to take our thick piece of straw and we're going to stick it right on top. Now we're going to work with our smaller pieces of straw. We are going to be threading our pieces of straw through the strings on the fingers. So we're going to start with the thumb here. So if I take a look at my thumb, I can see I have 2 small sections here, which means I am going to thread 2 small pieces of straw through the other end of my string. So I'm going to take the end of my string, I'm going to grab it, and I'm going to hold it over the finger, and I'm going to take 2 small pieces of straw. Now you can do these in the same color, or you can use different colors. It's completely up to you. I'm going to be using different colors so it's easier to see. I'm going to take my small piece of straw and simply thread the end of my string through it and move it all the way down. And I'm going to do the same thing with my second piece of straw. Now after I have my small pieces on, I'm going to take a large piece of straw and thread it through as well. So we're going to get our string through that. And that's it for my first finger. Now I'm going to move on to the index finger. I'm going to once again grab the edge of the string and hold it over. And if I take a look at my index finger, I can see I have 1, 2, 3 sections. So I'm going to need 3 small pieces of straw and 1 long piece of straw. So I'm going to take 1, 2, 3 small pieces of straw and 1 long piece and thread them through my string. Now I'm going to repeat the same steps for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th finger. So now we're on our last finger here. Once again, the pinky has 2 small sections and 1 large section here. So I'm going to thread 2 small pieces through and 1 large piece. So once we have our small straw pieces threaded and long straw pieces, we will have some extra pieces left over. That's okay, we can just place them aside. And you should have something that looks like this. You should have all your straws threaded through the string. And now our next step is going to be to stick the straws onto the finger. So in order to do that, I'm going to start once again with my thumb. So I'm going to peel off the top part of these squares on just the thumb. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So now I should have these squares on my thumb with the sticky side facing up. So once I peel that top part off, we are going to go ahead and stick the straws on. So I'm going to grab my string once again that's attached to my thumb. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move the straws on the string, and I want to stick them down on the thumb. So I'm going to hold the string with one hand, I'm going to move these straws with the other, and I want to stick each straw down in the correct section. So first, 1 small straw down in that first section, another small straw down in the next small section, and a large straw down at that large section. Just going to stick it right on top. And now this long end of my string, I'm going to just thread it through the thick straw at the bottom. I'm going to repeat that step for the other finger. Once I've peeled the top off the squares on my index finger, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take the straws on the string and I'm going to stick them down in the correct spots. So remember, 1 small straw in each small section of the finger. And the long straw is going to go in the middle part of the hand. And we're going to thread the end through the thick straw. We're going to go ahead and repeat that step for all 3 of the remaining fingers so that all of our straws are going to be stuck down onto our hand. Last finger now, I'm doing the exact same thing, placing the small straws down in the correct section and placing the long straw down in the middle of the hand, and then finally threading that end through our thick straw here at the bottom. And your model hand is complete. So if you pull on the strings at the bottom, be sure to support the back of your hand. And if you pull on the strings at the bottom, you'll see that you're able to move the fingers. So these straws on our hand actually represent the bones in our actual hand. So we have our thick straw here that represents the carpal bones. We have these straws in the middle of our hand that represent our metacarpal bones. And then we have the straws in our fingers that represent our phalanges bones. When we pull on the string, it represents our brain sending a signal to our hand telling us to bend our fingers. So there you have it. Have fun playing with your robotic hand. And that's the end of our Doctor for the Day Camp in a Box. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you had a great time going through all of your activities. Don't forget to take a look at the booklet in your box for more information on all the lessons we went through, and have a great rest of your summer. Bye!